Between nymph and werewolf, the place of man in the world according to pre-Slavic mythology, the Flint of Identity. Greetings to those who care about what is hidden on the mantelpiece. In the most prominent places such as popular works of art, TV series, computer games, etc. As always, for the sake of complete immersion in the studied materials, we'll use the help of some artistic practice, namely, complete the modeling of the medallion of the Barra school. In the last series on investigation, we found that the key characters in ancient and modern mythical stories contain the central natures of the monsters of the mythical continuum, nymph and werewolf. An eloquent analogy to this mythical concept can be found in the works of psychoanalyst Sabina Spielrein, who understood the dynamics of mental processes as the interaction of forces of Eros and Thanatos. She saw that not as irreconcilable antagonists, as Freud later interpreted, but as complementary components for strong love that changes a person so much that he feels as if he has died and been born again. In the understanding of death as a constructive element of the universe, which provides the possibility of renewal, especially internal, Sabina was closer to the mystical code than her teachers and lovers, Freud and Jung. However, the interaction of the main forces of the universe depicted by the mystical code is even more complex. Its cornerstone is the balance of the beast and the dead in each of us. Image of such a balance are mystical heroes with distinct features of both natures. For example, the three-eyed raven from George Martin's epic cycle is both dead and animal. However, the attractiveness of mystical heroes is ensured not only by the appearance of both monsters in them, but also by the imperfection of their balance, because our psyche more easily identifies with an imperfect character than with the embodiment of absolute perfection. Therefore, since the white wolf is dominated by the werewolf principle, he must constantly supplement himself with nymph. The first way of such replenishment is elixirs made of herbs, such as thunder or white swallow. And the second is the attraction of Yennefer, which prevails the beginning of nymph. Only a pair of witches and wizards from the perfect balance of the main forces of the universe. Not surprisingly, it is their thorny paws towards each other that runs like a red thread through the entire cycle of the Witcher. Less obvious, but the same pattern is traced in the attraction between Aragorn and Arwen. Not for nothing that the former spent most of his life hunting in the woods like a wild beast. One of his nicknames is Thornhill, meaning star eagle, and the second belongs to the endangered race of elves. But they also balance both principles. So, when Aragorn turns to the army of the dead for help, we understand where it comes from. As for the elves, their beastly sharp ears speak for themselves. In George Martin's cycle, the leading role at the end of the war between the fiery Rachlor and the icy Great Other is given to three members of the Stark family. Each of them, like Michael Carvin from the world of the underworld, combine the werewolf and the undead because, having the nature of werewolf, John, Arya and Bran visited the realm of the dead and returned from there to the world of the living. Lesia Ukrainka was the first in the modern world to find this ancient mythological construction in the forest song dedicated to Lukash and Nim's love story, later brilliantly screened by Yuri Ilyenko. The ordinary country boy Lukash not only married to the daughter of the forest king, but also was converted into a werewolf. The fact that Lukash turns into a wolf due to the punishment for Nim's betrayal could be perceived as a move that allows introducing the image of werewolf. Our subconscious mind uses such a plot shifts from image to image when constructing dreams, making it so ingenious that you will not see it in any football championship, and the construction of a work of art is subject to the same laws. However, the importance of this moment is much greater than a simple path to the desired image. Before meeting the nymph, Lukash was an ordinary young man and became a werewolf only after they met. This fact allows us finally understand the significance of the image of Chuhaister. He is the inner werewolf that appears inside us in response to the appearance of nymph. After all, this couple is the hidden basis of all things. Therefore, the psyche of each person is based on the balance of these two principles. It is necessary to increase the content of one of them, as, due to the compensation mechanism, spontaneously increases the content of the other. In other words, as soon as a nymph reveals, the werewolf comes into force, and vice versa. The man never remains defenseless, because the myth within each of us provides all the necessary clues, and it depends only on us whether we use them or reject them. As Ivanko from Shadows of Forgotten Ancestors. After all, the subconscious only gives clues. To use or not to use them, a matter of consciousness. Due to this spontaneous balancing of excessive nymph or werewolf beginnings, the symptoms of both mental and domestic problems usually contain manifestations of both monsters, which complicates the identification of the main culprit of the disorder, either mental or business. The technique of activating internal reserves on the principle of push, the one who falls, is based on the same spontaneous compensation. After all, sometimes direct help doesn't work, although you should start it with it. Because, as we have seen in the example of the sorcerer Geralt, the way to light a fire in the cold is much more dangerous. Thus, the balance of power of nymph and werewolf key to plot conflicts, mental healing, and improvement of life circumstances, for which again it is enough to recognize the monster that manifests itself in a problem. For example, the breakup is nymph, and desire to howl like a wolf. This is a werewolf. More importantly, the interaction of these two principles gives us the tools of personal growth, that is, for gaining an identity that doesn't require external support, allowing us to dance on the rope of life with the elegant ease of a circus artist. The images of nymph and werewolf are kind of Flint, which allows you to carve the spark of harmonious ego, then can ignite into a real fire. How does the human ego appear in the light of the existentialism of the mystical code? This ego should be called is, because it has no hard limits of the self-identity. Nymph's touch constantly destroys convulsive identities with the memory of images and achievements, family, work, etc. However, thanks to the power of the werewolf, the ego takes on all these forms again and again. Thanks to this constant renewal, our inner creators doesn't know what does exhaustion means. The basis of personality is not a specific phenomenon, not even one of the two main forces, but the fluctuations between them. Ego is not the one who acquires one form or another, and not the one who gets rid of each of them. Ego is the one who raises the curtain in front of nymph, then in front of werewolf, and they know what to do on stage. Afterward, this original concept of the personality was transformed, in particular, into the idea of the day and night of Brahma, but its correct understanding is hampered by reference to mechanical time cycles, all those millions and billions of years of purely symbolic but usually perceived by analogy with modern scientific concepts. So, to play the game of balance between nymph and werewolf, you don't have to wait for any problems to appear, but it's easier to get used to their monsters in their best form, using them not so much for healing but improvement. However, these are usually the problems that fuel our change, so improvement begins with the need to heal. We hope that our investigation has played the role of mythotherapy for all our viewers. While waiting for your comments, we will be grateful for every kindness, and we remind you that this medallion of the Bear School will be played among all those who sign up for the Patreon. Perhaps it will help sharpen your senses to the witch's level and promote a better balance between your nymph and werewolf. See you!